you focus on solving problems for people, you focus on the intent of the user and the user experience, you're going to cover 60+% of SEO. You need to start implementing, you need to practice, you need to make mistakes as you go, and you need to learn through those mistakes. There are a handful of things in SEO that if you do over and over and over again for a long period of time, you're going to end up seeing success. You need to start implementing, you need to practice, you need to make mistakes as you go, and you need to learn through those mistakes. There are a handful of things in SEO that if you do over and over and over again for a long period of time, you're going to end up seeing success. Most people in the SEO world, they focus on the SEO algorithm. They focus on catering their website and their actions to the SEO algorithm. If you can just sort of change that mindset and focus on the end user experience, focus on answering questions, focus on giving the most value compared to all of the other people who are ranking for those keywords. If you can focus on that, bringing the customer first, you are going to be able to do most of the SEO just with that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Digital Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Eli Adams, and in this episode, I want to talk about if I were to start all over and learn SEO, what are the steps I would take to be the best that I possibly could in SEO? So a lot of you out there, I know you're listening to the podcast, and a lot of times you may seem intimidated by some of the guests. You may seem intimidated by the words they're using or acronyms they're using just because you don't understand them. But it's really not that hard. There's a lot of basic things in SEO that if you learn, you can be really successful. And I want to go over a lot of those things today so that if you're in that position just starting now, these are the steps I would take for you to excel and elevate yourself online, okay? So the problem with SEO, the problem with learning SEO is that there's a lot of voices out there, right? There's a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of TikToks, a lot of blogs, a lot of different places you can go to learn, especially with AI. Now you can go and just ask a question and learn pretty quick. So the problem I see is that there's a lot of maybe overwhelm. People get into this analysis paralysis where they're like, I want to learn everything before I start implementing. And that's just not the right way to do it. You need to start implementing. You need to practice. You need to make mistakes as you go, and you need to learn through those mistakes, right? And so that's the first problem. The first problem is there's too much information out there, and people don't really know where to go when they're learning, and that can be really overwhelming, right? I think the other thing is people jump straight into buying expensive tools. There's a lot of tools out there, right? There's Ahrefs, there's SpyFu, there's SEMrush. There's a lot of different paid tools, and people think if I just spend money on these paid tools, that it will help me do this SEO, and maybe I won't have to learn the strategy or the tactics behind it, right? So SEO does seem technical, and tools can be helpful. Don't get me wrong, tools can be helpful. But if you really break it down, and I've said this a lot on other podcasts, but if you focus on solving problems for people, you focus on the intent of the user and the user experience, you're going to cover 60+% of SEO. So not really focusing on the technical, the on page, the off page, like there's so many things to learn about. If you just focus primarily on user intent and solving problems, you're going to beat most people out there, okay? I remember when I was younger, I made the all-star baseball team, and I was really intimidated because I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be there. And I probably actually didn't, but because I was in a smaller town, I lived in a small town where there were, 6 or 7 different towns and baseball teams. And when they made all-stars, they had to pick at least one or more from each of those teams. And so I think it was kind of a pity pick that I got on this team. It was a great experience for me, and I'll explain that why. But I remember going into, I don't remember if it was the semifinals, whatever it was. We had played in our area. We had beat a bunch of people. We went up to Salt Lake where, the big dogs were playing. We had won a couple of games, and it got to the point where, if we won this game, maybe it was this game or the next game, we would go to California and start competing maybe more on a national level. So there was a lot of pressure to be good. And I remember going to this game. First of all, it was tough as a kid because all of my family members were at this, I don't know if a lot of you are from Utah, you may remember the 49th Street Galleria, or Fat Cats is kind of the big thing right now. Basically, if you're not in Utah, what it is that it's a place where you can go and there's bowling and there's arcades and there's movies and there's food and there's all sorts of things, right? And my family and extended family were all at the 49th Street Galleria playing. And my mom said, hey, it's time to go to the game. I'll take you. Everyone else is going to stay here and have fun without you. Basically, that's the message I got as a kid. I'm sure that wasn't actually how it was, but that's how I felt, right? And I thought, well, I don't even play that much. And if I do, it's kind of this pity thing. Just let me stay and play. And my mom said, no, you got to go. You committed to doing it, so you're going to finish, okay? So we went to this game, and I remember it was gloomy outside. It had rained a little bit, and it was cold. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't want to be here. So towards the end of the game, my coach wanted to make sure everybody was playing, and he threw me out into right field, which is, if you know, in Little League, that's where they put the kid who's not good, because most hits don't go out there. So I go out in right field. I play a little bit. No hits come to me. Thankfully, I was super scared. And then we all come in, and it's time to bat. Well, it turns out I was in order. I was gonna bat this inning pretty much no matter what, right? And so we were down by 2 points. There were 2 people on base, and good old Eli gets up to bat. And if we scored, we would continue playing. If we scored, we won. If we didn't score, it was last inning, and we were going to lose. So now I get up. There's tons of pressure, right? 1, all my family is out having fun. 2, I don't want to be here. And 3, if I strike out, I lose going to nationals or going to California, the next level, whatever it was, for my whole entire team. And I already knew that nobody had confidence in me. So I got up and I watched 3 strikes go right by, and I completely struck out. People were not happy with me. I was not happy with me. I was like, I'm done with baseball. So fast forward to the summer, my brother, all my brothers played baseball. My oldest brother, Bart, really loved baseball. He played a little bit in college, and he was home for the summer, and he's like, let's practice baseball, right? And so, we would do some throwing and catching or whatever, but he goes, really, like, if you want to win baseball, you got to be good at batting. So we stood up this, makeshift kind of batting cage, I guess. It was really a chain link fence that we would hit into. And he had a T-ball, T-ball set, and he put the T-ball set in front. And, and I stood there, and he had a bucket of like 100 balls, and he sat there and he put it on there, and he taught me. He goes, hold your bat like this, hold your feet like this, and then hit it. And hold your bat like this, hold your feet like this, and then hit it. And he goes, imagine hitting it right back at the pitcher. And so I'd practice hit. And we hit hundreds of balls per day. And he would say, okay, if it's outside, this is where you step. If it's inside, this is how you step. If it's a curveball, here's how you step, and here's how you hold it. And after hitting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of balls over the summer, it became muscle memory. I knew how to hold my bat. I knew where to stand. I knew what the ball looked like. I imagined in my mind what it looked like going into right field or left field or right back of the pitcher. And we did this over and over and over. And it seemed super basic to me because it was on a T-ball. It wasn't somebody throwing at me. I wasn't out practicing in the field. I wasn't practicing grounders. I wasn't practicing anything else besides how to stand, how to hold my bat, and how to swing it and step in the right way. And it was over and over and over and over again. And, fast forward a couple of years, I ended up playing in high school, and I ended up starting varsity a couple times as a sophomore, and playing junior and senior year varsity, ended up hitting a couple, home runs and being a captain of the team my senior year. And, things were great. I actually ended up winning a game very similar to the game that I lost that got us into, I think it was the quarterfinals, maybe the semifinals, I can't remember, for state. My senior year, we were playing, and it was a team we had already lost to, and they brought one of the best pitchers in the state. When I got up, they changed him out, and it was one of the best pitchers in the state. And there were 2 people on, and if I didn't hit it and they scored, we were going to lose and just go home. That was the last game of the year. And if I did hit it and they scored, then we would move on to the next game. Either way, the new pitcher is warming up. And my coach pulls me aside and he's like, hey, if you want to bunt, you can bunt, we can advance, and then the next hitter can hit and we can potentially score, but you're the captain, you're a senior, I'll trust you, what do you want to do? And I said, just let me hit. So I got up there, let a couple balls go by, and then it was a curveball, ended up hitting a home run that won the game. And it was like a complete flip to just sitting there watching 3 strikes go. and to me end up winning the game because of that home run. The reason I tell you this story, I know it's a long drawn out story, but the reason I tell you this is because the reason I was able to do that is because I practiced what was most important, like the 3 to 4 things that were most important, and I did them over and over and over again. I hit hundreds of balls, probably thousands of balls. I remember my hands had blisters, they were calloused, and I love my brother to death for sitting there and putting it on the tee and saying, okay, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. After the 100 balls were gone, we'd put them in a bucket, and he'd sit on that bucket and give me a ball after ball after ball and just tell me, okay, now this is outside, so stand here, or here's an open stance, or do this or whatever. And I had that muscle memory. Do you feel like your website traffic is kind of in a slump right now? Or maybe over the last couple of weeks or months, it's actually dipped quite a bit and you cannot figure out what to do next? Go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting to schedule a free meeting with me where we can look at your website, talk about your frustrations, and see if there's anything that I can do to help you out. The meeting is absolutely free. There's no strings attached. If I can help you, I'd love to. Again, go to fireusmarketing.com/meeting. We'll talk to you soon. So the reason, again, I'm telling you this story is because there are a handful of things in SEO that if you do over and over and over again for a long period of time, you're going to end up seeing success. And I want to make sure that you don't get into like the grass is always greener on the other side. One of the mistakes I made early on in my career is I would start a website and I would build it, I would optimize it, and I would put some content on it, and then I would see something shiny over there and I'd go start another website, and then I'd go start another website. And you know, if I would have taken all of that time and energy and content and put it into one website and just did it over and over and over again, that website would have been one of the most successful websites I ever owned, right? But at one point, I actually had 45 different websites going at one time that had AdSense on it and were lead captures and a bunch of things, and they did okay and they made some money. But if I would have put all that effort into one website, I would have been so much further along. So I want you to just kind of remember that as I'm going through these steps. And know that if you just focus on these handful of things to learn SEO and implement SEO, you'll be so much further along than your competition, okay? So I got 5 steps I want to talk to you about. Step 1 is I want you to learn the philosophy, not the tactics of SEO. So really understanding why SEO, not what is SEO, but why SEO. So first, what is Google's mission? Google's mission is to serve the best results to the person who's searching, right? So they want people to keep coming back to their product. So they are going to give the best results every single time. Your job is to deliver the best results, right? So how do you do that? You go analyze the search engine results pages, which we call the SERPs. You find out what Google is already valuing and what they're ranking for those specific keywords, and then go and implement that on your website and make it better. You have to understand search intent. You have to understand, is it informational? Is it transactional? Is it navigational? And we've talked about this before. In fact, I think I talked about it on the last podcast, where the intent of the word lavender, right? I used to work for an essential oil company, and the executives wanted me to rank for the word lavender. But when you go type in lavender in Google, Google doesn't know if you're looking for essential oils or the color lavender or the flower lavender or any of that, right? So if you type in lavender essential oil, the intent is to rank for lavender essential oil, right? So understanding the intent is so important. Okay, so what I would do to help kind of understand more of the philosophy over the tactics is, first thing I would do is I would go and get Google's, and you can just Google search this, search for search quality evaluator guidelines. And there's a blog post and a PDF that you can download if you want that talks about, from Google's perspective, what it is you need to rank, okay? The next thing I would do is I would find a handful of SEO educators, whether that's listening to this podcast or someone else. Just find a handful that you know are really, really good, follow them, understand the fundamentals from them, okay? There's 8 million people out there that know SEO and that want to teach you. Like, find a few that are really good, follow their steps and their practices, and just move forward with that, okay? And really just try to understand the philosophy. As you're reading this, as you're getting educated, understand the philosophy of SEO over the tactics of SEO. We'll talk a little bit more about the tactics in a minute, but the first steps are understanding the philosophy of SEO. Okay, step 2, it's super important. You have to understand that there are core pillars within SEO, okay? There's on-page SEO, there's technical SEO, and there's off-page SEO. And that's ordered in importance, right? So the first thing you should learn, in fact, I think you should probably spend like 80% of your time early on learning on-page SEO. That's where I feel like a lot of people make mistakes in the beginning. When I get new clients and they come over, I see a lot of mistakes of, did you get the right URL slug? Do you have the right title, the right meta, the right H1, the right first paragraph? Like the on-page SEO, again, going back to looking at your competition and looking at what Google is already ranking for, if you can customize that on-page SEO to fit the intent of what Google is ranking people for, you're going to get so much further ahead. Okay. Step 3 is that I actually want you to do it, right? I want you to build a website and I want you to practice your SEO. So you can go to YouTube and you can say how to build a WordPress website in an hour, and you'll find a bunch of tutorials. I actually have a tutorial. It's at fireusmarketing.com. Look for the course tab. The first part of that teaches you how to build a WordPress website. It's not that hard. It's pretty basic, pretty easy. If you want to do it on Shopify or Wix or whatever, do that. But the point is, I need you to have a website where you learn, you get the experience, you practice, you gather that data, all of it, right? So there's a lot of people out there who will study it and study it and study it, but there's no implementation. And if you don't work at a place where you have the ability to implement and test everything that you're learning, it's really hard to take it to the next level. So go buy a cheap domain. You can go to Google and say, cheap domain or discounted domain, and if it's the first domain you're buying, there's going to be a discount, right? And then you can go and set up WordPress and set up hosting. You can get a super basic theme, or you can pay for a professional one. It doesn't matter. You can set up Google Search Console so you can start to track data. All of that, by the way, you can go to YouTube and you can figure out how to do by yourself. If you want to learn how to do that or need some coaching on that, hit me up. We'll set something up and get it figured out for you. But the bottom line is that you need a website to practice. There's a lot of people that I've worked with in the past. They've gotten most of their learning from their own business, from their own side hustle, from their own website, right? A lot of times you can work at a bigger company or an agency and you're going to recommend that these people do things, but until you actually get into it and do it yourself, it doesn't really stick, right? So that's step 3. I need you to build a website, and just build one. Don't build 45 like I did. Just build one. Go do some research, figure out what you want to do, build one website, and move forward with that. Okay. Step 4 is learn how to do keyword research. There's a million different ways out there that people are saying you can do keyword research. I wouldn't go and buy these expensive tools, right? I would start with a free tool. So go to Google and use Google's autocomplete. We've talked a lot in the past podcasts about the ABC method. So whatever your topic is, go to Google and start typing it in. So let's say that we're a therapist, right? And we want to get people to start coming to our website and do some SEO. I would type in therapist or therapy or whatever, and then a space, and then the letter A. And then you're going to see Google's autocomplete that's going to say all of the things that people are searching for that are A. And then I'll delete A and I'll do B. And I would see all those, and C, D. You could do a handful of them. You can do all of them, whatever. But it'll give you ideas of what people are already searching for. And then you find one of those, you click on it, go to the next page, and you're going to look at the section that says people also searched. And you're going to look at those. You're going to categorize them, maybe pull them out, put them into a spreadsheet. You can use other tools like Ubersuggest, like Ahrefs. You can even use ChatGPT. I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. For free, you can actually sign up for Google's paid advertising without actually starting advertising and use their keyword planner. It does have paid advertising data in there as well, but you can see search volumes and you can see other stuff like that. So once you've started doing keyword research and you've built your website, now you can start implementing that. So start off by, building your main landing pages, your homepage, your about us, contact us, stuff like that. But then start building out blog posts and learn how to do your keyword research through your blog posts. Learn how to do your on-site SEO by writing blog posts and test a lot. So change the URL slug on one blog post versus the next. Change the title or the H1. Change up your title and meta descriptions. There's a lot of things you can do to experiment while you're building out that website. And then step 5, the last thing I'd recommend is that you test. So get a bunch of stuff, publish it, make sure you have analytics installed, make sure you have Google Search Console installed at a minimum, and then just go through that data. You can go through Google Search Console and you can see what people are searching for. You can see the pages that they're searching for. You can see where the average rank is. And if you're ranked average on, page number 2, look at the title and meta on that page and find out, can you adjust it? Can you do more internal links? Can you do something to get it from page 2 to page 1? So I would, one is implement over and over and over, and then test the heck out of it. Okay, and then finally, let me tell you a few things that I would not waste my time on. Okay, there's a lot of things like we've explained that I would focus on. Those 5 things I would do over and over and over again, just like my baseball stance, learning how to hit, we did it over and over and over again. So same thing with SEO. These are the things I would not focus on, okay? I already said this once, but I wouldn't buy expensive tools right in the beginning. I wouldn't pay for them thinking that they're going to solve all of your problems. I would not get obsessed with off-page SEO, with backlinks, with citations, with all of that until you have a firm foundation. Once you have a bunch of content on your website and you're starting to see some of that ranking in Google Search Console, then you can look into what are next steps to do off-page SEO, right? I wouldn't listen to advice that promises overnight success. I wouldn't go to YouTube and say, how to rank in 24 hours. A lot of that's going to be black hat SEO. And although you may rank within 24 hours, it won't last, okay? Especially if you plan on working with clients long-term or as an in-house SEO, doing that black hat SEO can get you in a lot of trouble. And we can talk on a different podcast about some of those things that I've seen other people do that have completely crushed websites in a way that they have to just really start over. And then the last thing I would do is I would focus on 5 keywords. I would not focus on 100 keywords, right? If you're like, I'm going to write 100 blog posts, here are 100 keywords that I just did research for based on what Eli said, I wouldn't do that. I would focus on 5 keywords, maybe 10 max, and I would do everything I possibly could to get those 5 to 10 ranking, right? Because you're going to spread yourself too thin. You're going to focus on 100 keywords versus 10 keywords, and all of your effort's going to be, it's going to take 10 years instead of a year to get you ranking really well. So focus on 5 to 10 keywords, not on 100 keywords. Okay, listen up real quick. I promise I'm going to get you right back to the episode. But are you frustrated that your product or service isn't getting the right amount of visibility it deserves online? If so, and you want my help guiding you through the SEO optimization, go to fireusmarketing.com/SEO to get my free SEO guide. Talks about all levels of SEO, local SEO, regional SEO, national SEO, and international SEO. It should give you everything you need to optimize your website at a basic level. If you'd like help beyond that, feel free to hit me up at fireusmarketing.com. I'd be happy to jump on a call and talk through your needs. Now let's get back to this episode. So that's all I have for you. So final thoughts on this is I really need you to understand that most people in the SEO world, they focus on the SEO algorithm. They focus on catering their website and their actions to the SEO algorithm. If you can just sort of change that mindset and focus on the end user experience, focus on answering questions, focus on giving the most value compared to all of the other people who are ranking for those keywords. If you can focus on that, bringing the customer first, you're going to be able to add so much more value and rank so much faster just by doing that. So stop focusing on what the algorithm wants. Start focusing on just those 5 things that I listed out. Do them over and over and over again, understanding that intent and problem solving is the most important thing you can do in SEO. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it added some value. If you need some help setting up a website or learning how to do any SEO like we've talked about here, feel free to hit me up at fireusmarketing.com and we can jump on a quick call and we can talk through how we can help each other moving forward. So that being said, we'll talk to you guys next week.